Welcome to Independent Venue Week. I'm Simone Marie, and I'm going to be chatting to some key figureheads in the music industry about independent venues, their journey, and their musical career. And I hope you enjoy them. So, welcome back to the next interview for Independent Venue Week. I am Simone Marie, and I'm joined by the excellent Mr. Andy Bell.
Hello.
Hello. How are you, Andy? Thank you for joining us.
Welcome.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, a bit of an open-ended question, but how are you? Are you doing okay?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Yeah, in the circumstances,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Cool. How have you sort of managed? You seem like you've been really busy, which is amazing. You've put the Glock album out end of last year, and you've just released your own solo album, Move From Halfway Down. Have you found it easy to sort of stay creative at the moment?
Yeah, kind of found it pretty okay to stay creative. And I've got friends who have come up against things like writer's block or just sort of creative block, but that's not really happened to me this time around. Although it has before in the past, different circumstances. But no, this whole situation that we won't mention what it is, that we will know what it is, hasn't affected that too much.
Yeah, I like that we've both decided to go for a hat today.
It's got to be about a hat today. I don't know why.
I know. I sort of randomly wear hats. So yeah, feeling it. Seeing as we're here for Independent Venue Week, what have independent venues meant to you as a musician from like the very beginning of your career up to now?
They've meant a great deal to me. I mean, to try and put it all in perspective. I mean, I don't think it's the same for any new band. So the fact that they're there is just something that you take for granted when you're up and coming. You know, so it's going back to the Ride early days. Our first 20 gigs, like almost probably nearly all those gigs, like 15 or more of those gigs were all at the Jericho Tavern, which is, for people that know Oxford venues, a real, a massive part of that time. The Jericho Tavern was a small, typical place, like a pub, where regular pub downstairs, which had an excellent pinball machine called Pinbot, which
very important.
Yeah, which I used to play for hours. You used to build a female robot, and you'd get to the final level, and it'd be "Now I Can See You." You know, it'd be like a really teenage dream machine.
Do you remember that film Weird Science?
Yeah, Weird Science, but in a pinball machine. Yeah. And then upstairs was a venue that held about 100 people. And whenever I read about a place like, Eric's in Liverpool or somewhere, or just mythical sort of places, and every town's got them. Every town's got one of these, or two of these, or three of these. But it was just where all of the young musicians and people that wanted to hear bands would just congregate, and all the local music journalists or whatever there would be, people just into music, just all be there, like drinking cider and waiting for the whatever band was going to come on. And the Jericho Tavern is just Oxford's version. There's like every town has them. And I actually, in preparation for this, I actually went back and looked at a list of Ride gigs just to see what I remember. Like, and just saying the names of these places kind of takes me right back to what they're all like at that time in our life. And I can list a few, but
yeah, please do.
It's like, okay, so in those days we would be doing these gigs on a shoestring, and more often than not, sleeping on the floor of the promoter's flat. So you'd have to be mates. You'd have to build friendships out of that. And these people that these promoters or people that you meet at the venues, they go on to become involved in your life later. They could be someone that goes on to work in a label, could be someone that goes on to write about music and remember seeing your band. Could be anything really. Just allies that haven't got a reason to be there apart from that they love it. And there's a community on that level of venues, which brings out the best in new music, because you've got individual venues with their own individual style, people picking whatever bands they feel like picking to play, usually like brand new bands that you know. All right, so you might have heard of bands on that first run going around the country, getting their gigs in that on that circuit. Um, then the next level down is the promoter, his mates locally, picking that local support band who need a chance, and then that's a way of seeding that music to the main bands going around. You know, so like it's got so many levels to it, and they all need to be protected because it can't just all be homogenous with someone picking the bands at a national level. It's got to be local.
Yeah. Do you
But
think? Go on, sorry, go on, carry on.
yeah, so just to go through my list, okay, so here's a few
Yeah.
places I remember playing that are all brilliant. Oxford had Jericho Tavern, and at the time it had the Zodiac, which became the Co-op Hall and is now I think it's the Carling Academy now.
Right.
London had Camden Falcon, Dingwalls, Harlow the Square, Subterranea. Then you had Brighton Zap Club, Southampton Joiners Arms, Duchess in Leeds, where I got my wah pedal nicked. Derby the Dial, Dudley JB's, Liverpool Planet X, Manchester Boardwalk, of course, and then this International 1 and International 2 in Manchester, the Whoosh Club in Newcastle, Windsor Psychic Dance Hall, Bristol Beer Keller, Nottingham Rock City, Manchester International. I said that one, but that gives you an idea of just these places with personality. You know,
Yeah.
you start a venue in a pub or a small room, you give it a cool name, you build up a vibe around it, and you know it's massively important for music.
Yeah, I kind of love that these venues almost last longer than a lot of the bands. You know, sometimes when you start playing like a certain level, you could, I mean, you could be huge, be playing like arenas in one country, and then have to go back to those really small venues in another sort of, you know, smaller part of Europe or something. And
Yeah.
it just feels like, you know, when you play, like when you mentioned Rock City, and Glasgow Barrowlands is another one that comes to mind for me, where you just like, you get really excited about it a few days before because you know that it's just sort of like legendary thing. And then when you step, they all have these amazing, like, I don't know, fronts or signs or something. And it just kind of adds that extra thing to the show, doesn't it? It's like, it's really hard to do. You don't, what I mean is you don't get excited when it's sort of one of those big ideal home exhibition type venues.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's that first level. I mean, even Barrowlands is quite big. You know, that's like
Yeah,
1,000.
it is big, yeah.
So, I mean, I guess that counts as an independent venue. So it counts anyway. But like that first level is the one I was sort of like thinking about mainly.
Yeah.
And they do all have their personality. They do all have their something about them.
Mm. Do you think bands, like new bands coming out, I mean, aside from COVID, aside from that, if we can just think outside of that for a moment, do you think newer bands have got it much more difficult now these days because there are just fewer grassroots venues around to kind of get that confidence going, get that sense of community?
Yeah, I wanna. You've made me think of one of the good news stories, which is I don't know whether it's a label or what it is, but this feeling. You know, this feeling started off as a club night.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Mikey Johns ran this club night that was where a lot of us lot used to go to a few years ago, and now that kind of umbrella of this feeling now has lots of venue night. I think it's got nights and venues and rehearsal rooms all up and down the country, and
yeah.
they are like instrumental in breaking. And because I got the social media following, they're instrumental in breaking a lot of bands to a level where they get noticed over the whole country. So I
Mm.
mean, there are good like anything really. You know, in the world of selling music to people, you've got your Spotify's, but you've also got your Bandcamps. Like
Yeah.
you've got your like massive people who own loads of venues, companies, and then you've also got this feeling who are like really doing it about the music and showcasing a lot of like multiple bands. Like you go to this feeling night and you see 5 bands. I don't know where they find them. There's so many. It seems like there's just a
Yeah.
never-ending well of this feeling bands coming through. But, I do, to go back to the question, I think, bands have always got it hard in different ways. And I don't know whether it's harder now or harder then or what. I mean, we felt like we had it hard back then because in Oxford, no one really, there wasn't really a scene before Ride happened. We were like sort of involved with a couple of bands, but the bands we were mates with in Oxford, they weren't like us. They were like different sort of music, and there was like a real heavy, almost heavy metal band, and then there was like a really, really twee indie band, and then there was like a rock band, like a sort of retro rocky sort of band, and we were just all mates and would come to each other's gigs, but there wasn't really it was before the shoegaze thing.
Yeah.
Back then that hadn't happened quite yet. It was just 4 or 5 bands that was around at the same time. But we thought it was quite hard to get noticed because the local radio wouldn't go near it, local press wouldn't go near it, and it really took national press for us to get noticed, even anywhere.
Yeah. Did you get your wah pedal replaced?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I had to buy a new one,
Oh, there's always something that gets nicked, isn't it? Those kind of small babies as well.
Yeah.
They have these like wonderfully tiny, beautiful, debauched backstages, which you don't really get.
Los Colbert was the guy who would leave something behind every venue, and then it would always spend like the whole tour trying to phone people to try and get this thing back. Chasing him. He'd have like an anorak chasing him around venue to venue, and always leave too early to get it.
Oh my god! Who's the first one and the last one out of Ride to leave the venue?
That changes over time, depending on what phase we're all in. I can be the first one or the last one out, depending on what I'm doing at that point in time, whether I'm being good or whether I'm being bad.
Yeah. Have you done the? I've spoken to a few people that are doing dry January. Have you indulged in that?
No, not this time. I have done it before. But not this time. No, it would be no.
That's a step too far, really, at the moment, isn't it? I think.
Too far. Yeah. I'm not going too mad. I'm just not saying no.
Yeah. No, totally. So we've all sort of been forced into working remotely, in terms of recording, doing other stuff, and collaborating.
Yeah.
Has being in this situation sort of changed the way you work? Because we can't all suddenly go, oh, we're going to go to the studio.
Yeah, I mean, I'm mixing something right now that I would have been in the studio with somebody, and he's floated the idea of doing it remotely, and I was like, oh, you mean like we could get on you send me an email, and just like, can I phone you? Like, he's like, no, we get a Zoom chat, and we connect up to. I connect up to a thing where I can hear the music coming through the speakers in the studio. Like, I can hear it go through my speakers, and it's like WAV quality, like full quality, like better than a CD quality, streaming in real time. So it's almost better than mixing in a studio because you're mixing in your own head, your own.
Yeah, I think that.
So yeah, it's definitely changed. It's educated me about what you can do these days if you've got a good broadband, and if you've got like the right apps.
Yeah. Do you think you'll continue doing some of that after we can go back to the 3D?
Yeah, I'll continue for sure. When you can't be together, just say you're on the road or something, and you've got things going on back home. This means that you could, in theory, just keep going.
Yeah. Have you ventured? I mean, I know you've gone down the more like electronic route as well with Block and like DJing and stuff like that. Has that been something you've capitalised on more, let's say, throughout this whole process?
I don't know. I mean, when we spoke last about this whole thing, we spoke for your podcast in like, it's got to be.
When was that?
9 months ago or something. It was springtime.
Yeah.
It was just going into that nice hot summer we had. And what was the question again? What were we just talking about?
I just like, have you about sort of going more into like electronic music DJing?
Oh yeah. So we were chatting then, and I was just having to. I had just had to cancel a lot of Glock gigs, which would have been my first Glock shows.
Yeah.
And I'd got Ableton, and I'd got this controller thing to try and make this all work live. And cancelled, I just kind of parked all that because I found it quite confusing, to be honest. I don't know what you think of Ableton, but I find it really hard to get my head around.
I haven't got my head into that yet, to be honest. I haven't had a situation where I've needed to, but you know.
Yeah, so I didn't need to, and so I didn't.
Exactly.
And I have started playing semi-electronic live gigs, and I think the way that I've done it might be the way that I end up doing it with Glock, which is a new coffee shop opened in my neighbourhood toward the end of last year, and it's run by friends of friends. So I got introduced to these people that are running this place, and they've got a real music kind of background to them. The place is called Lo-Fi Coffee, and
amazing coffee, by the way.
It's really good coffee, isn't it? Yeah.
It's like the Twin Peaks thing. Like, damn, it's good coffee.
Yeah, yeah. Agent Cooper vibes. So that place when I started going in there and chatting to the guys, and we were talking how, basically thinking how can I help you lot? How can I get to play? Then we decided to try something where it's semi-live. So I set up a DJ rig there with USBs, with music that I've just kind of put together from loops and backing tapes of my own music or whatever, demos and things, just something to play to and play guitar over. So this could end up being the way that Glock works live.
Interesting
explanation for that, but
yeah. I like that because I mean, obviously, I was at that, and I loved it. I really, really loved it.
Oh,
and when you did the live stream for the one after, because obviously we went into sort of lockdown and public couldn't come, but you did it and streamed it. It's just so good because you can hear elements of parts of songs that you'd written for your album from halfway down, but then it was other layering and other textures on top. It's just really. It's really cool. It's great that you experiment so much. I mean, there are a lot of people in bands and they just do that band and that's it, and they only play that instrument, that's it. But it's great that you know, so many different things going on.
Yeah, I don't see why you shouldn't enjoy yourself in life and spread your little wings a little bit, Spread
your little wings. When was the last proper gig?
Sorry. Just my fire alarm going off.
Oh, okay. Well, don't turn the house on. That's quite a way to end an interview. It's just and just like that. What was the last gig that you actually went to as a member of the crowd? Like as a punter?
It was Bon Voyage at what club was it? Ministry of Sound.
Oh wow!
I think, yeah.
And is there anyone that you're really looking forward to seeing, like when we can go back?
Everyone, really.
Anyone.
I had tickets to Glastonbury. I was going to be going to Glastonbury.
Oh yeah.
I was going to be playing a DJ set at Glastonbury or something, and I was just really thinking about that. But so basically, it's not so much about a band. It's more about a crowd that I want to see, and a bar, and like a vibe. It's not like a particular band. It could be any band.
Yeah. No, I'm totally with you. So just to finish it off, like what's next for you that you can tell us about?
I have just announced. Well, not announced, but just sort of went on pre-order today. One of the things we did during the lockdown time was there was a bit of a campaign going to save one of my favourite pubs, The Gun in Hackney, and they started a GoFundMe, and they were going to have all these levels to it where because it's a pub frequented by a lot of DJs and music people. Nick had the idea to do an album to get everyone who comes there to make records, make tracks, and so we all made tracks for this thing. And then before you knew it, they'd reached their funding target. So the album wasn't ever really needed for that reason. So luckily, that pub is so loved that people just sprang into action and saved it. but the album is going to come out, and it's going to raise money for local charities in Hackney, as well as keep that pub afloat a little bit longer as well. I think they still need a bit of assistance. But
That's great.
so there's a real good cast of characters on this thing. On the album, you've got Roisin Murphy, Nitzareb, Daniel Avery, Skylab, myself doing the Glock thing, Bon Voyage. Tons of great people, really tons. And the EP taster of that was put on pre-order today. So if you can look at my Instagram, if you want to see the details, the links in my bio, you can download that. Aside from that, I've got a single coming off my album from last year. The song Skywalker's coming out on February 5th. And if you get it, you might have the album already, but there's a great remix by Pie Corner Audio, an acoustic version too, which you can pick up if you feel like it. No pressure. I know everyone's strapped for cash. I just want to get back in the studio with Ride though.
Yeah, what's happening with the guys? I mean,
we're in contact. We're all kinds of contacts, but we just haven't. We've been trying to get in the studio since last autumn, but people are shielding. Partners are shielding. It's very difficult to do anything in that scenario. We just got to be safe, be careful, and look after our families and our people. But we are really desperate to get in the studio together. It's been too long. Yeah,
well, it will happen. It will happen. I guess we can all do as much as we can remotely until then.
Yeah.
Hopefully the vaccine will improve. Increase what we can do in a safe way.
Yeah.
But well, I'm looking forward to all of those musical goodies that you've got coming. And so check your socials and your accounts and stuff. And cool. Well, thank you for joining us.
So
thanks to the Fab Four behind you.
Yeah.
And,
the Cavern was an independent venue, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And so was the Star Club and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I've definitely been independent, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, this is where it all happens.
This is how bands get their chops together, is by playing over and over again in small venues that don't have many people in them at the time. They just have to learn somehow. We have to learn somehow.
I was saying before in one of the interviews that somehow, in many ways, those gigs are tougher because you're doing them at a level of much lower confidence than you get to when you do bigger shows. And, you've got people standing in front of you like this. You're kind of like, I better be good. I better not suck. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You play a massive gig and there's a level of distance between you and the venue, you and the audience, and you're often at festivals and stuff looking out over the stage is finishing a few meters ahead, and then you've got a big pit full of empty space normally, but photographers or whatever, and then you've got the crowd behind that. So to play a venue where it's a room, you can see the whites of their eyes, is scary.
Yeah. It beats looking at security guards' butts, isn't it, basically? Well, I'm going to let you go, but thank you so much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure to chat to you.
Thanks for asking me.
And stay safe, and no doubt to see you soon.
Will do. Just have to go fishing now.